Paul mentioned, he said he looked a little bit taller in that picture compared to in person. I apologize for that. You know, you were actually pretty impressive because I think you were just informed, like while walking up the steps, that you would say a couple words, and that's pretty impressive. That is amazing. You know, I'm always impressed on how we can take a whole bunch of people who were enjoying drinks and a barbecue outside, and then taking them to a dark room to watch me. But hopefully this will be exciting for you. You know, I'm really humbled and honored to be here today. And I just want to give like just a round of applause to everybody who showed up today. Like, this is amazing. Please, please. It is. It is amazing because you could be sitting at home, really, by the lake, on the patio, watching Netflix, something. You could be doing something, but you're here, which is great. Let me just try to fix this. This might bother. Is this on, by the way? It is on? It is on? Okay, good. You know, my background has really been around innovation. This is what I'm obsessed about. This is all I read, write, work, and speak on. And when they asked me to be here to launch Bruce GPS, I was really excited because not only is this like one of the most beautiful spots in Canada, but also because this whole topic of innovation really impacts not only businesses, which I work 100% of my time, but communities and individuals as well. And I'll talk a little bit about how it's impacting you know, my family as well. But I love this whole idea of innovation. And you know, when people think about innovation, they almost think about all the explosive innovation that's really happening. And this is what I tell everybody when it comes to explosive innovation, and I'll tell it to you as well, is that the dirty secret to explosive innovation is that nothing is actually truly original. Everything is a remix. Everyone steals, copies, and combines innovations, and this is where we see the magic happening. As an example of this, the internet is a beautiful example. The internet is beautiful because you might have a creative idea, and if you put it up online, there's probably 1,000 people with the same idea as you, and you can find it online. It is almost impossible to come up with a truly original idea. It's almost impossible. I've had one original idea in my life, and the internet completely ruined its novelty. Let me explain. About 8, 9 years ago, I was going to propose to my then girlfriend, Deepa. And you know these proposals, there's a lot of pressure to make these proposals good and fun and unique. A lot of pressure. I just imagine her friends getting together and saying like, oh my God, how did he do it? How did he propose? Ladies, you don't know how much pressure this is for guys. There's a lot of pressure. And so this was my idea. You can let me know if this was a good idea or not. I was going to rent out a movie theater, South Edmonton Common. I'm from Edmonton. And I would invite all her friends and my friends and her family and my family, and I would make a movie. And somehow in the movie, in the storyline, I would propose to my girlfriend who would be sitting right beside me, like right there, right next to you, Paul. And I would propose to her. And then this is exactly what I did. I remade the movie I Am Legend by Will Smith. Do you guys remember this movie? No? Okay, that's okay. Hey, I didn't watch it either. It wasn't that good. But I remade the movie. And I'm going to show you the proposal, but I'm not going to show you the entire proposal, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But this is essentially what happened at that theater. She did say yes, by the way. She did say yes, and it worked out. We have a beautiful daughter. Everybody was happy. It worked out. And, you know, at the time, my girlfriend, my wife now, Deepa, she said, you know what you should do, Sean? You should take this video and then put it on YouTube and then send it to Ellen DeGeneres because then she'll have us on. And then she'll give us a whole bunch of stuff, like a honeymoon. And you know what? I was getting really skeptical about this idea because I know that the internet has created new behaviors known as trolling or memes. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like I just imagine somebody taking my face and going like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, just like making a rap remix of my face. You might have seen this. Or putting something on my face. I don't know if you've seen this hot dog. But this is a new behavior around trolling and memes. And literally a year later after I proposed, hold on, I'm just going to plug this bad boy in. A year later after I had proposed, this happened. My wife is still pissed off to this day about this. And so, you know, this is the internet. If you actually go on YouTube right now, you can find like 100 guys that have proposed to their girlfriends in movie theaters. They've taken this completely original idea and made it overdone overnight. And this is the internet, right? It is the largest repository of innovative ideas, yes, but it's also the largest copying machine on the planet. You know, there's still, this is what I want to show you, is that when you have sort of converging technologies come together, it creates new opportunities, new behaviors, and new challenges. And there's still a challenge that we still haven't solved yet, and that's really around data privacy and security. That's why Mark Zuckerberg was at Congress a number of months ago talking about our data privacy on Facebook, trying to make sure that our stuff is private. I mean, this is the question of our age right now. But we know that the internet has created amazing opportunity. You know, I believe that we actually live in a drag and drop world. You need code, you need design, you need help from anywhere. It's just a matter of bringing the best things that humans have done and bringing these things together. And so the internet is just a beautiful example of this idea of technologies really coming together, converging, and fundamentally sort of disrupting everything. And in my opinion, we're actually going to be seeing the most chaotic era in commerce ever. And we're also going to see communities also get reimagined because of all this converging tech. And so what I want to do today is showcase some of those things that are really disrupting every industry, just to tease you with some of the things that we potentially should be thinking about in the next 20 years as we develop this plan. Because of course, you know, part of Bruce GPS and part of the amazing work that the team is doing is collecting all this information about the needs of the community now. What I also want to do is showcase what's actually going to be happening in the future, because technology is really at an exponential scale. And so I'm going to start with something relatively simple and talk about community and engagement and how that has fundamentally changed. You know, I started my career in the early 2000s with a company called Singapore Press Holdings, SPH. They had a monopoly over all the newspapers in Singapore. And my job here was to be a futurist, to be a media strategist. My job was to figure out what the future of newspapers would look like. That was my job. And I had no idea how to do this job, no idea. So I asked my boss, how would I do this job? And he said, Sean, all you have to do is take a look at what other newspapers are doing around the world and take the best practices from the best newspapers around the world and then bring them to Singapore Press Holdings. And I said, that's a really great idea. Get the best practices from the best companies around the world and then bring that to our newspaper. It sounds totally accurate. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And at the time, this is newspaper terms, but the innovations that were happening in newspapers in the early 2000s were, how do we go from a broadsheet newspaper to a tabloid-sized newspaper? That's what we were talking about. We never talked about all the things that are disrupting newspapers today, like social and mobile and analytics and all these things. how people actually get news today, many of them are getting it through social media. We never talked about any of this. And sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night thinking to myself, I am probably the reason why the newspaper industry sucks. Because of my work. And actually, I will never make the same mistake again. I will never get really romantic about what my competitors are doing, but instead really taking a look at what's happening at a macro level. What are those big disruptors? And so that's what I want to do with you today. It's not really getting romantic about what other communities are doing, but really taking a look at what is changing everything and seeing how we can just cherry pick on some of those trends so that we can incorporate these into Bruce County. And so really what's changing around communication and engagement, this is what we didn't get at the newspaper. We didn't understand how the world was changing with all these converging technologies like social and mobile and cloud and analytics. And so because I started my career in media, a lot of people ask me, what is the future of attention? What does the future of communication engagement really look like? And is it more video? Is it more podcast? What is it? And in my opinion, it is actually everything. It is more video, it's more text, it's more social, it is more of everything. And we are just animals just waiting to consume new content. You know, this is an important insight because what this does, what we've done in this new era of communication and engagement, we've actually created new industries, new companies that we would never think about 20 years ago. I'll give you an example of this, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit it because I'm in a room full of amazing leaders here. I'm addicted to this thing called GIFs. Do you guys know what this is? I don't know if you've seen this, but I'll show you. This is a text from my wife to me. We have actually created a new language where we send moving pictures to one another. It's crazy. And by the way, there's a company called Giphy. It's a $600 million value company. It's the fastest growing tech company in terms of users in the world with 300 million active users, all through sending stupid moving pictures. It's unbelievable. We've created new industries and new companies around this. Do you use a GIF? No, you don't. No, okay. Well, I'll show you later. We can GIF together. You know, if you want a tip though on a really great GIF to use, this fall off. I really like the Gary Payton GIF. You'll like this actually. If you're surprised about something, you can put this down. It's you know, you're surprised. Somebody sends you a text. I can't believe it. This is a nice text to send. You know, the other thing around community and engagement that has really changed over the years is the fact that now subculture is the new culture. Mass is dead. And the way that we engage with larger community is really dead. And this means that sub-communities have really been revived. I'll give you an example of this, you know, online. What has really happened is the internet has fractured popularity into these niche communities. Like, if you are into makeup, you know who Huda Katan is, but 99.99% of the world does not know. Do any of your kids play Fortnite? Okay, they know who Ninja is, but again, 99% of the world has no idea. You know, so there's this idea that you have these niche communities that you can actually really nurture. And it's unbelievable. So instead of actually having mass communication to everyone, you can actually identify the influencers in these niche communities and really tackle them. And if you actually apply it to Bruce County, of course there's going to be lots of people that say, listen, I want an environment where it's clean, it's friendly. I don't want that many tourists sort of ruining my day. And on the other side, you have people that are running businesses. It's like, we want more tourists. We want more economic growth. We need more people here so we can sell more stuff. So it's like, how do we balance these things and really build a vision towards the next 20 years? And I think it's really around how do we actually please these sub-communities that actually align with our vision. We'll talk about this a little bit later. But let me keep on going on the whole technology front. And you know, when everybody talks about disruption, and to me, disruption is this: someone comes into your space and fundamentally changes the status quo of your industry. And when people talk about disruption, they always bring up Uber, right? And Uber is a great technology. I'm not going to go in depth on it because, you know, a lot of people here are very familiar with it. It's been around for many, many years. But it's really the technologies of mobile and GPS and marketplaces and payments really coming together, creating this disruptive force known as the sharing economy. And it is actually creating new challenges. But in my mind, what it has really done, it has created new behaviors. It really has. And I have a note that actually describes it perfectly. This is from Carol. She says, in 1998, don't get into strangers' cars, don't meet people from the internet. 2016, literally summon strangers from the internet to get in their car. Describes it perfectly. And you know what? It's crazy. You could be sitting in an Uber and not understanding how much the world has changed. I'll give you an example of this. A couple of months ago, I was in Toronto, and somebody, a really nice person, picked me up. Her name was Jacqueline. She had a 4.99 rating. She was really great. And she was also a makeup artist. This was her job. This was her day job. And she was complaining to me. She said, I hate the fact that there's all these girls posting makeup tutorials on YouTube. There are also all these girls doing freelance makeup without a cosmetology license. I said, that's crazy. You know what? There's also all these people that are picking up random people from the street without a taxi license. She did not like that at all. She kind of gave me that Gary Payton look that I described before. She did not like that. But it's crazy. You could be sitting in an Uber and not understanding how the world has fundamentally changed around you. This is the speed at which we're going. And you know, the sharing economy is creating new challenges, but when it comes to work, when it comes to individual, when it comes to your kids, when it comes to communities, what's really happening is it's creating new challenges around retirement and pension. You know, what happens when many people are doing gig work? They have not one job, but they have 3 to 4 jobs. And what does that do to retirement and pensions? And there's companies actually coming up that are trying to answer this question. You know, there's governments already talking about this idea of basic universal income as well. And we know that the sharing economy is fundamentally rethinking the entire idea of ownership as well. Now let's keep on going, and I want to talk to you about something that has really changed my life. It really has. It's called crowdsourcing. It's combining the technologies of mobile and payments and the crowd, which is you, together. And this has saved my life. You know, traditionally within organizations, we would walk in our office and we would say, who is available to do this work and when can I get this work done? Enter in crowdsourcing, which means that you could actually get anybody in the world to do work for you at an exponentially cheaper cost. There's sites like Upwork, where you can get any freelancer in the world to do things, whether it's development or design or research or translation or transcription or code, whatever you need from any country in the world, available at your fingertips. There's sites like Fiverr, an entire marketplace where people will do things for $5. There's sites like 99 Designs where you put up a project, a design project. 100 people will compete for that work. And you know who gets paid? One person. That's the state of design right now. And so the reason why this has changed my life is because I've been using these things for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and it has allowed me to have an exponential workforce besides the team that I already have. And you know, this is creating new challenges, new behaviors, and new opportunities. You know, the challenge is, instead of saying, who is available to do this work, can I actually get somebody for somebody globally? Like, do I need to get somebody from Bruce County, or can I get somebody else from Bangladesh who has a 4 rating and a little bit more context around what I'm doing? It's really creating new challenges. You know, it's changed my behavior, and it's also changed the behavior of my teams. So anytime I have a particular task now, I say, do I need to do this work? Or can I get somebody else to do this work at an exponentially cheaper cost? You know, it's changed the dynamic of my teams and their behaviors as well. Instead of them sort of doing data entry work or doing reporting work or doing research, they become more like curators of content and research and analysis. And they're actually building management and leadership skills right out of school, because now they're actually managing a global workforce. This is actually available to everybody in this room. And the way that I would get you to start, if you haven't heard about it already, is just go on Fiverr and just spend $5 on getting something done. And you know what? Just message me and I will give you the $5. I'll just send it to you. You know, if you have PayPal, I'll mail it to you. I'll send you a check, whatever you need, just to get started. You know, but this is creating new opportunities. You know, traditionally within organizations, if we needed to get stuff done, we would, in order to grow, we'd either do three things. We would either make more stuff, or we would hire more people, or we'd buy another firm completely. But today, when talent is actually ubiquitous, you could actually add exponential talent, exponential value to what you are doing simply by leveraging third parties. And this not only goes for organizations and individuals, but it also goes back to communities as well. And not relying on just the people that are in our community, but rather, how do we actually use the world to help us grow, to help us innovate, and to build this community forward? So it is really a transcending topic. And this whole idea of leveraging third parties, it has really created massive industries, amazing organizations. And here's a crazy stat for you, just happened like a couple months ago. You know, the fastest person to $1 billion was Mark Zuckerberg at 23 years old. In a couple months, this person will become even faster than him. And her name is Kylie Jenner. She's part of the Kardashians. I don't know if you guys watch the Kardashians, but she's part of the Kardashians. She has a cosmetics line called Kylie Cosmetics. It's a $900 million value company with 7 employees. And so how do they do that? Well, their logistics is done by a third-party company. Their platform is used. They use a platform called Shopify in Ottawa for their e-commerce platform. They're outsourcing their PR and marketing. It's 7 people punching above their weight and really utilizing the crowd, utilizing third parties to get stuff done. And this is unbelievable. Can you imagine that the youngest billionaire ever will be a Kardashian? Anyways, this is why our world is changing. It really is. So let's keep on going. You must have heard of some of the hype around artificial intelligence and machine learning. There's a lot of hype around this right now. And you know, I want to give you a little bit of context because, you know, I'm from Edmonton and we're the second best in the world when it comes to AI research. And I've been talking a lot with the data scientists that are there and the researchers, and they will tell you that there's a lot of hype when it comes to AI. A lot of hype. People are saying that it's going to take away jobs. There's a lot of hype. And to be honest with you, when my parents, they immigrated, by the way, to this country, and they risked everything to come here. And you know, they once asked me, Sean, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a hockey player. They said, no, here's the definite list of things that you could do. You can be a doctor, engineer, accountant, or lawyer, or you could marry a doctor. If you are East Indian, you sort of get this. These were the options. These were the only options that you had. And so this is where I'm in a bit of a dilemma, because this is what my parents told me, and they told me that these jobs are safe. And now, this is my daughter, by the way. She's almost 2, so it's a little bit younger. This is my dilemma, because my daughter was born in 2016. It was a beautiful time to be alive because we already invented the internet. We already invented the iPhone. We've already invented autonomous cars. Like, It's a beautiful time to live. And so the predicament that I have is this, and maybe you can help me out, is see, my job is to help organizations really disrupt their status quo. It's to figure out, what the future looks like for them and, what future careers they should have. And so when I go back to my daughter and, and that picture that Kara pulled up at the end, it's like, what jobs will I tell my daughter to get? Because the jobs that I showed you before, these are all getting impacted by things like technology and especially artificial intelligence. So what do I tell her about the future? What jobs should my daughter have in the future? This is the dilemma that I'm having. I'm not sure. And, if you want to know if your job is going to get disrupted by AI or if your kids' jobs are going to get disrupted by AI, there's a really great site. It's called Will Robots Take Your Job? I encourage everybody to go on it. And I actually went on it just to see how some jobs would do. I put in physician to see how they would do. And it turned out to be 0.42%. They said they were totally safe. And then I put in something else like engineers to see how they would do in the world of AI. And it showed up that they would be 1.4%, which is great. They said they were totally safe. And then I put in something like lawyers to see how they would do in the world of automation. And it was 3.5%. And it said that they are totally safe. And then what I did is I put something random in, like accounting, to see how they would do in the world of automation. And it said 94%, and it said that they are completely doomed. How many accountants are here, by the way? Okay, none. I guess they're doomed. They're watching Netflix by themselves. I actually don't think that these jobs will disappear. I don't think accounting will disappear, don't get me wrong. I actually think that this is the best time to be in accounting because we can actually take advantage of all these technologies that are in front of us. But this is what I'm talking about, this idea that AI is really impacting every job, and it's happening. I don't know if you saw this, but I'm from the generation when somebody would call your house on your landline phone, and if you actually didn't know who was calling you, you would actually pick it up and say hello. Like, we were so brave back in the day, right? And today, I don't know if you've seen this, but Google has introduced this thing where they will actually just do the calls for you.
Hello, can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second.
So it's crazy, at the Bruce County launch in the second launch or the third launch, there might be a Google AI assistant doing this talk, I think. But it's crazy how fast things are going. What's also crazy is that, Bruce GPS is talking about the next 20 years. There's some people they call futurists. I'm not a futurist. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow, to be honest with you. So I don't know when things are going to happen. I'm more of a practitioner. This is what I help organizations with. But there is something that's coming, which is autonomous cars. And it's going to impact every industry. Not only is the cars themselves, the first cars, they were actually used to create new industries, tourism and entertainment, and it created a whole hospitality industry. And now I think autonomous cars, when they're coming and they're at scale, the car will actually be the destination. Like, you could actually have new industries created in the car around meditation and gaming and work. This whole idea of autonomous driving is actually it's gonna change everything. It is going to change Bruce County. You actually might have more tourists. If you hate having tourists now, you might have more tourists because now you're going to have more people that say, oh, let's just jump in the car. I can watch all these different things and do all these great things and work out. And by the way, then we'll show up at Bruce County and we can do all these fun things here. It's going to change real estate. You are more likely to live outside of the city if you can actually get work done in your car on the way to work. Like, there's so many implications that we haven't even thought about in the next 20 years. 20 years, this might be happening in the next 10, right? So, it's unbelievable how things are changing. But I actually think that automation is the best thing that can happen to humans ever. Because now we can actually remove the things that we don't want to do at work so that we can actually double down on things that actually matter, like our citizens and our stakeholders and our customers. You know, when I've been adopting some of these things within organizations, whether it's AI or forms of it, the people on the front lines, they love it. Because now they're empowered, and now they're actually doing things that they want to do instead of focusing on the things that, are redundant, or they're doing data entry or copying and pasting. No one wants to do that. Humans are not designed to do that. And so this is why it's going to be amazing. Now, I want to talk to you something else that is really important to me, which is around voice. To me, this is the next big thing. You know, every technology that has been created or adopted, it's usually created and adopted by geeks, nerds, guys in their basement who should, you know, probably be getting laid. I don't know, like, but, you know, God bless them, because we were able to create the internet and blockchain and artificial intelligence and all these different things. The difference between voice and everything before it are the people that are actually adopting this technology. I'm just curious, how many people in this room have a Amazon Alexa or Google Home? Maybe like 1 or 2. Oh, wow, okay. I'd say 10 people in this room. And then how many people on Facebook Live? I don't know, just say it. You know, this technology is unbelievable, because here's my daughter. She's not even 2 years old, and she's already blabbing at Google to get stuff done for her. She literally has 2 words, like 50 words in her vocabulary. 2 of them are Google and Alexa. And on the flip side, my mother, she's about 70 years old. She missed the internet revolution. She missed the mobile revolution. She could barely text. And yet she's using voice 100 times a day. And so now you have 2 people from either end of the spectrum adopting this technology because it's so seamless. And you have something like this, where you have my daughter talking to my mother on, this is an Echo Spot, this is an Amazon device, and they're talking seamlessly on it. And it's really unbelievable, because this actually will be my daughter's interface, because she knows that this thing actually gets stuff done. It turns on the TV, it gets us the weather, it tells us the traffic. This is her interface. So you think about her interface for her health data, her financial data, this will be her interface. This is why I'm building a company where it's based on voice for business, and we're helping organizations actually adopt these things within businesses. Now, to show you the magnitude of this change, here's a picture from 1991 from Radio Shack. And here are all the things that they were selling, like a stereo and a voice recorder and a cell phone and a camcorder and all these different things. If you wanted to buy all this stuff, it would have been $3,054.82. And it was a sale. And now you can get all these things in your pocket through your iPhone, right? So now you have this. This is the new flyer, if you want to call it a flyer. And now we have all these things like maps and health data and the clock and weather, all the things that actually replaced the things on the flyer. So what's next? What's after this? Well, what's after this is you actually not carrying anything. You not being addicted to your phone in front of it, but it's ambiently asking things like, hey, what's the weather? Or hey, what's the traffic? And so voice is the next thing. And it is going to disrupt every industry. It really is. Amazon is predicting that voice is going to be the next big disruptor. Voice is the next big platform. And I know this because everybody thinks it's creepy. And when everybody thinks it's creepy, that means it's the next big thing. You know, when the internet came out, people were like, I am not going to put my credit card online. And then everybody did. And then when the smartphone came out, people were like, I'm not going to share everything that I'm doing. And then everybody did. And the same thing goes with voice. I don't want this in my house. What if they're listening to me? Which they're not. But everybody will. And this is why it's going to be the next big platform. The next billion-dollar industries will be created on top of this platform, and government services will be done on this platform as well. So these are some of the trends that are really happening. And to me, the reason why organizations and communities fail to adopt these things is not because they don't understand it or they haven't seen it. I'm sure you have seen some of these things, you've read some of these things in magazines. The reason why innovation is killed is, I think there's two things. The first thing is fear. Anytime something comes out that disrupts our government, our society, or our culture, any new technology, our immediate reaction is to avoid it, to regulate it, or to kill it. This is our immediate reaction. And today you're actually having things that you have actually never seen before, like artificial intelligence and machine learning. You probably have heard of blockchain and voice and all these things happening. This is part of our human nature to avoid technology. I'll give you an example. You know, in the 1800s, in a small community, they actually produced amazing invention. It was called the bicycle. And everybody thought that the bicycle was a really great idea. Everybody thought it was a great idea. Except the men thought this might be an opportunity for unmarried women to go from one village to another village without even asking. And so you know what the men did? This is a true story. I'm not making this up. It's a true story. The men got together, they conspired, and they developed a condition known as bike face. Bike face occurred when women would ride their bikes and they would get wrinkles down their face and they would get stretch marks because they'd be biking so hard. I'm not making this up. And then the men, what they did, they took this condition and they put it in a magazine in order to prevent women from riding bikes. Like, we did this. This is why we've been fearful of new technology all the time and adopting it. Well, here's the punchline, is that today, the improbable is the new normal. We're going to consistently see new challenges come at us, so we can't be fearful anymore. We can't be fearful. Like this lady, she's very great. You know, there's something else that's holding us back from innovation. I call it nostalgia. We get really paralyzed around what's working today or what was working in the past. And I'll give you an example of this. How many people are here from Edmonton or are an Edmontonian? Good, we can talk about them openly. So, you know, in Edmonton, where I'm from, we are the most nostalgic people on the planet. We won the Stanley Cup 27 years ago. And if you come to Edmonton, we still talk about Gretzky and Messier and Curry and Lowe and McTavish and all the guys that were successful in the Gretzky era. And the reason why we haven't won a cup in 27 years is that we took the people that were really successful in the Gretzky era and we put them in leadership positions in the Oilers organization, hoping and praying that we could rekindle the Gretzky magic. This is why we haven't won a cup in 27 years. The Leafs haven't won a cup in a long time too, but this is it. I want you to translate this to business. Why do we think that the people that were really successful in the industrial era will be equally successful in the digital era? I'm not saying that they can't be. But what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a leader today, we are actually playing in the digital era. So you should have an understanding, a passion, and awareness of how to play in the digital era. And that's why I think this day is so important. Because what we're doing is we're trying to plan what the next 20 years are. And today we're in the digital era. I don't know what the next era is going to be, but we should be continuously leaders in the new era and thinking about what all the trends are so that we can incorporate those into our county. And you know, some of the best organizations in the world, they never got nostalgic about the business that they were in. My favorite story is from Netflix, the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings. The toughest decision that he ever had to make as a CEO of Netflix is when he had to literally kick out the DVD team from the main management meeting at Netflix because they weren't open to the new technologies that were coming out, which was streaming at the time. He had to literally kick out the DVD team from the main management meeting at Netflix. And by the way, the DVD team was responsible for all the revenue and all the profit at the organization, and he literally had to kick them out of the meeting That takes a lot of courage to do, but he was able to do it. You know, there's another organization that never got nostalgic about the business that they were in. In the 1920s, this company was the best root beer company in the world. And then they got into the food business, and then they got into the accommodation business. And this company is called, this root beer company is called Marriott Hotels, and they continuously try to innovate today. They spend 2/3 of their savings from expenses back into digital transformation. And so we've seen this throughout history that, you know, some of the best companies in the world, they actually can evolve because they're not nostalgic. You know, Amazon used to sell books. Shell actually sold seashells. Samsung sold Korean dried fish and noodles. You know, somebody might be here at Bruce County in 20 years and say, you know, Chipotle, they're a really great burrito company, but now they're the best flying boat company in the world. I don't know, maybe. But it's this whole idea, if you're not nostalgic, you can evolve. And it's another reason why I think today is really important, because we're really trying to figure out the strategy over the next 20 years. To me, this means, how are we going to do things differently amongst all these disruptive technologies and disruptive concepts in the next 20 years? Things that we have not even seen. How do you predict something that you don't even know about? It's very difficult to do. And this is the reason why this is important to do, and this is the reason why I think Boost GPS is setting a great foot, is because if you're not in front of it, you can get disrupted. And here's the cold truth when it comes to disruption, is that the most established organizations in the world are the most vulnerable to disruption. The most established organizations, the most established communities are the most vulnerable to disruption. Why is this? And by the way, the most established organizations actually hire the best people. Everybody wants to work there. They have people in their organization that go to the trends, they're reading all the magazines, they're forward thinking. They have the best people, yet they become nostalgic. But why do they, you know, why are they unprepared for disruption? And the reason is because when you run your organizations like a well-oiled machine, it becomes very difficult to pivot and move when the environment changes around you. You get really nostalgic about whether it's your business model or your processes and what's working today. And so how do you do this then? How do you build a strategy for 20 years and fight off disruption, even if we have all the smartest people in this room trying to figure out what the future looks like? How do we do this? In my mind, this is the only way to deal with disruption. This is the only way to figure out what the future looks like, because you can't future-proof anything. And it's really around experimentation. It's really around finding small problems with small teams and small sprints and figuring out how we can move the needle. This, to me, is how you deal with disruption, not only from an organizational standpoint, a community standpoint, but also from an individual standpoint as well. You know, some of the best organizations in the world, they have a culture of experimentation. At Amazon, Jeff Bezos says, if you double the number of experiments that you do, you double your inventiveness. And at Amazon, they have teams that are dedicated to experimentation. That's why they can go into every industry right now and disrupt it. It's because of that culture that they've developed. Now, I want to ask you a question. If I gave you $1,000 in 2010, which company would you invest in? Just yell out any company. Any company. Apple, they became $1 trillion company recently. Any company, any else? Amazon. Some juice company. Yeah, I would get into that too. You know what I'd invest in? Domino's Pizza. Domino's Pizza. On $1,000, you would have made $21,000. Domino's has not innovated their product. It's pizza. I get it. It's cheese, pepperoni, dough. I make it at home. It's very good. Where they have innovated is actually through their customer experience. They get their pizza to their customers faster than anybody else. You can literally tweet them with a pepperoni emoji, and they'll figure out how to get a pizza to you. They're experimenting with drones and AI and chatbots and all these ways of getting a pizza faster to you. And this is why they've been so successful. So a lot of organizations, a lot of communities, a lot of individuals say, well, we're not a tech company, Sean. We're not in a geography where we can experiment. You could be a pizza company and experiment. So it is not out of the realm. You know, there's another company that I really love when it comes to experimentation, and because I started my career in media, this company was so disruptive that my mother actually watches them. I'll give you context. You know, growing up in my house, if you didn't have the remote control in my house, you didn't have the power in the house. And on the weekends, my mother would dominate the television, and she would watch these old, terrible Indian cooking shows. And she no longer watches them. She actually watches something else. And I'm going to show you what she was watching, just to give you a little bit of context.
यहाँ अगर आप रखें पानी का तो आप आराम से जब तक ये उबले आप उबलने के बाद आप इसे धीमी आंच पर रखें और आपका चावल तैयार हो जाएगा। अच्छा मैं चावल को ढक देती हूँ प्लीज और अभी आप दूसरा वाला डिश बता दीजिए जरूर।
You know, I had to stop this. This went on for another minute. And you know what? They actually gave you enough time so that you would go to the back of your house, get a pen and get a paper, and write down all the ingredients that were there. And this is a property from BuzzFeed. And the reason why they become so popular, and the reason why BuzzFeed was able to create this property known as Tasty, is purely through experimentation. See, what happened was when Facebook came out with their autoplay feature, which means that they could play a video and it would be autoplay, and it would be, they found out that 40 seconds was a magical engagement number. So they actually created a team known as FB40 to figure out how they could scale their video experiments. And they created this juggernaut known as a Tasty. Unbelievable. Now, you know, so to me, experimentation is the way to go. And the whole trick is to actually find experiments. Where do we find juicy problems? And to me, when it comes to citizens, it's actually doing a little bit of what you guys are doing already, which is having these pop-ups. To me, taking pop-ups to the next level, if you're okay with it, is, to me, the next best thing is actually following people around. Literally just following around. So when we would, part of our innovation projects, what we would do is we would, to find really great insights, we would follow people around at the office. We would follow them around at home, on the way to work, at skating practice, because we really wanted to understand the context of what people do and why they do it. And you can't just get that through work. You can only get that by understanding the holistic, just seeing them in their truest form, which is on the way to work and at home. And I think the best experiments are based on human behavior, and the best way to do that is following around. I don't know, is that part of your strategy? I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to follow.
Okay, no. You know, I call it ethnographic research. You might call it creeping, whatever you want to call it. But the reason why I bring Andre Agassi here is that he actually figured out a way to beat Boris Becker at tennis, not by practicing more, not by studying analytics, not by getting a better coach, but by simply watching Becker's tongue. See, what Boris Becker would do before he would serve the ball is he would stick out his tongue, and that would indicate where he would serve the ball. And so Agassi figured this out and was able to beat Becker 9 out of the next 11 matches. Agassi actually told Becker about this many, many years later, and this is what Becker said.
So I told Boris about this after he was retired, because I just showed really good judgment for my own self-preservation. I didn't share this with him before. I told him at Oktoberfest, we went out in Oktoberfest in Germany and had a pint of beer together, and I couldn't help but say, by the way, did you know you used to do this and give away your serve? He about fell off the chair, and he says, I used to go home all the time and just tell my wife, it's like he reads my mind. And he said to me, little did I know you were just reading my tongue.
I love that. So if the one thing they want to remember when you go home is like just follow your employees or follow your people around. That's a really great way to find experiments. You know, you could actually incorporate this idea of experimentation to communities as well. You know, there used to be a really old neighborhood in South Korea. It was kind of a grungy neighborhood. It wasn't very well established. And there was a group of people that said, how could we do something interesting here? How could we actually find a small community experiment where we fundamentally change the landscape of what's happening? And what it really started was getting a whole bunch of young people with young businesses and young eateries collectively into the same area. And by starting this simple experiment, by having this collective, this area, this neighborhood in Seoul, Korea, Passion Island, has become one of the hottest spots in Seoul, Korea. They've taken 6 stores into 50 stores and expanding. And the rules are simple. It's all about the community. The people that are building the businesses should be part of the community. Part of the earnings should go back into the community. And they've really created something amazing through experimentation. And to me, I think thinking about 20 years is tough. And I love that you guys are on the path to doing it. And you know, the whole point of this conversation was exploring the future as a community. In my vantage point, in terms of building a community, it requires leaders. And the good thing is that you guys are all leaders. And in this digital age, and with all this change happening, I actually think that it's everybody's job, not the good people at Bruce County, but it is literally everybody's job in this room to help innovate, to help experiment. This is actually how we're going to move the needle. And I think that's why I love the mission around exploration, and because this is actually the time for you to step up, and if you are a leader, to actually make change. Like, there are pop-ups where they're asking for your ideas, and if you're passionate about it, you know, they will take it into consideration and want to move forward with it. I mean, that's the point of this, and that's why I think everybody has to experiment, and this is how we're actually going to move this county forward. Don't quote me. I don't know if no one told me to say this. This is just my opinion on it. And this is really important. You know, I'm just gonna end it with a couple things. You know, I didn't bring my business cards with me, so you can add me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm posting video there. You can add me there. You can find me there. But this whole topic about innovation is really, really, really important to me. And this is why I'm really humbled to be here, because the whole purpose of this launch is really around innovation. And it's not only important for me from an organizational standpoint or for a community standpoint, but also from an individual standpoint. You know, I started this conversation, you know, really talking about my daughter. And what job would I tell my daughter to get in the future? And actually, I actually might give the same advice that my parents gave me, which is get a really safe job. And to me, today, in this era, with all the change happening, the safest job in the world is actually this ability to instill hunger and learning and this ability to experiment, which I think is the most important way to not only deal with disruption, but to move forward. And hopefully, if I can instill that with her, she'll be successful. So thank you so much for your time today. Much appreciated.
Kara, and thank you, Sean. Our portable mic is cracked out, but it's always an opportunity, a great opportunity to ask a couple of questions of keynote speakers. So we have a couple of time for a couple of questions only.
Absolutely.
Anybody have a question for Sean about this thinking and the future workshop?
Sean,
yes, sir.
Do you think the job for your daughter has even been invented yet?
You know what? So like I said before, like, I'm not a futurist. I have no idea what's going to happen in 20 years. But what I do know is that most likely that job has not been created. So that's why I think actually instilling this ability to be adaptable, being resilient, being able to experiment is important. Because if you get really romantic about being in accounting, I don't know if that job is going to be that relevant in the future. And so I think, yeah, I have no idea. I wish I could tell you.
That's what I'm telling my daughters is,
yeah,
whatever you're going to be doing in 20 years' time, we don't even have that job now.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, I'll tell you right now, everybody is really hyped about data science and artificial intelligence, and they're saying this is, right now there's a lot of jobs in data science. You can make a lot of money doing that. But is it going to be relevant in 15, 20 years? There's already AI that's writing code that is trying to disrupt that work already. So it's tough to predict. That's why instilling this idea of experimentation is so important. Amazing question. In the back.
You mentioned that website that dealt with outsourcing of different businesses. What was that one again?
Yeah, so if you want to write this down, it's called, my favorite is Upwork. It's the largest marketplace for freelancers on the planet. You can get anything done there. The other one is Fiverr, Fiverr, 2 R's on Fiverr. And it is a marketplace where people do things for $5. It's not as sophisticated as Upwork, but if you need small, micro tasks done, it's a great way to go. I use it for things like I don't want to do, like I need to configure a website, or I need to create a logo, or I need a quick design, or I need a Facebook post, or something like that. That's really great. So those, and then 99 Designs was the other one. That's for design. Those are the way to go. And you know, on that path around crowdsourcing and automation, like my interns that are working for me right now, they have an AI assistant. They use crowdsourcing at scale. So they're using all these things to become exponential employees, as opposed to people relying on their own skill sets, but really becoming curators of content and yeah.
Can local leaders instill experimentation within their community? Are there ways of doing that?
So I absolutely, you know, I don't want to oversell what experimentation is. Experimentation is simply trying new things that we have not tried that bring value. So, you know, I showed the example of, you know, Domino's experimenting with different ways of delivering their services. I think so. I think local leaders can experiment with different ways of service delivery, different ways of engaging with citizens as well. I'll give you an example. I was working with the Ministry of Employment Standards and Occupational Health and Safety in Alberta. And one of the things was, how do we actually engage with citizens in a better way? And one of the things that we did was we used simple Facebook ads to do polls to figure out how we can just get quick snapshots from people. And you know, using Facebook is not innovative, but to them, to government, you know, they thought that this was out of this world. And so I think it's just simple experiments that anybody can try. And I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. Yeah.
I think Domino's, though, they looked at internal. They didn't look external. They looked at how they could improve customer service to their own employees, which then in turn created the growth.
So you're right. So they have 800 people in their head office. 400 of them are now dedicated to big data, software, and experimentation. They do have a sort of an innovation team that is focused on how do they do things internally and what they focus on. But a lot of their experiments were done externally in terms of their customers and trying small beta tests and prototypes in certain regions. So you're absolutely right that it's part internal and then part external as well.
I think it's 8:30. I'm going to turn it back over to Kara just to give a wrap up.
Thank you so much for your time.
Stand up for a second.
Oh yeah, sure.